I'm a gay.
Oh, save your applause for the talent. Hi, my name's Diane Gordon, and I'm the TV editor for Studio System News. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed that episode because I thought it was really funny. Let's just get to it. Great cast. They're all here to talk to you. So first and foremost, we're going to do it one by one. One of the show's creators, Steve Byrne. Vivian Bang. Jodi Long. Lauria. Ebersole. Owen Benjamin. Valerie Azlynn.
I'm on the far right.
Roy Wood Jr. And Ahmed. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Welcome. Hey. How is everyone? You're sharing microphones. I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
Are we?
So anybody else want to join the cast? We have so many people. You guys might as well just come on up here and pretend to be in it. It doesn't matter.
Let's start at the beginning. Steve, can you talk a little bit about how the show came together and how you teamed up with Rob Long?
Yeah. With Rob, I was online one night. It was 4 a.m. My pants were around my ankles. I was on Craigslist, and I answered an ad, and he wrote back. And we just hit it off, you know.
That's so beautiful.
Our fascination
That's
of
so
German
sweet.
pornography brought it. No, sorry.
Showrunner HJs.
Been a long week for everyone. No, I was touring as a stand-up comedian, 50 weeks a year, living out of a suitcase. I was working on a third-hour special, which I still haven't filmed yet because Uptown Problems, I'm working on the show. So getting ready to do that this fall, but you know, being friends with Vince Vaughn, and he's always been so supportive, he said, you should write something for yourself, create a vehicle for yourself. And I said, okay, I've never written anything before. He said, you can do it. And that was it. That was the conversation. So I took 3 months and bought a bunch of books. I'd finish up my sets. I'd go to a diner. I'd read them. I'd treat myself like a college student. I was reading again and taking all the notes and stuff and reading Save the Cat and sitcom books and wrote something. It was pretty horrible. And we met up with Rob Long, and Rob liked the idea, the concept. He punched it up, made it 1,000 times funnier, and here we are 2 years later with this amazing cast, and I can't believe I'm...
We love you, Stephen.
Steve's verklempt.
I could get choked up, yeah, but it's just been an amazing experience. It really has. These guys are awesome, and we all get along, and it's been the best. I love it.
I want everyone to know I had this shirt first.
And just what inspired the idea for the show?
Desperation. No, the idea for the show was literally because I was a comedian, just living out of a suitcase, that it reflected what I was going through at the time. I always heard you write about what you know. I had no personal life. I had a professional life. I was doing great professionally, but personally nothing. So I wrote a show about a guy who's doing great professionally with a corporate lawyer job, but has no life. He's not around his friends. He's not around his family. And everybody, I think, wants to feel a sense of home, no matter where home is. And Pittsburgh's always been home to me. So I wrote a story about a guy that goes back home to Pittsburgh and gives up his job to take over a bar to be with his friends and family. And I believe that's the backbone and DNA of a truly meaningful life for anybody. So I hope that that's relatable, and it seems like it has been so far.
Definitely. And in case you don't know, Rob Long, who's one of the executive producers on the show, worked on a little show also set in a bar called Cheers. So I like to think that maybe that was an additional good luck charm.
Yeah,
for you
it was
guys.
originally set in a diner, and he said it's easier for transient folks
People
to
come in and
come in and out in a bar. And it was funny because I originally I know you guys saw Ken Jeong in this episode. I was originally writing a pilot with Ken. It was like an Entourage for nerds. It took place in Silicon Valley, and then literally The Hangover came out, and he blew up, and I never heard from him again. Yeah, we hired him, yeah.
Okay,
so we were lucky to have him.
Let's hear from everybody else. Just since we have a large panel, in a couple of sentences, how did you wind up on the show? Vivian?
Well, I auditioned. I had to audition. Julie Ashton was casting, and she called me in, and I was like, I read the script, and I was like, oh my God, I don't have to have an accent for this one, So I was super excited. I'm like, you mean I get to be just like a regular? So,
Can you do your Japanese?
oh yeah.
Do Japanese.
Yeah. Do your Japanese interview.
No, I'm not.
Interview Steve, Japanese style. Come
usually
on.
it's like I go in and I'm like, hi gang, my name is Yuki, I'm from LA. So it was like the one time I could just speak like, but I remember going in and, the second time they called me in and, for these pilots, you have to go through like a series of like 5 auditions sometimes. And the second time I went in, it was for the producers. And I remember meeting Steve for the first time. And I was a fan of his, but, as soon as I went into the room, I was like totally nerve-wracked. And he got up and he like shook my hand, just to like make me feel comfortable. And I was like, all right, this guy's rad.
No, that's okay. Jodi, go right ahead, Jodi, please.
Well, I had to do an accent. And, well, should I share this? That I wasn't going to be seen because I wasn't Korean. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I wish we stuck to that. I didn't know you weren't. Fuck!
I had a better Korean accent. No, so they weren't going to see me, so I got it like the day before. I had a few hours to look at the script. I was like, what up with this? Anyway, but as soon as I Googled you, I was like, he looks like me. Oh, he definitely can play my son. So, of course, I went.
Never looked that good.
Thank you, Dan. You
Wow.
see, he's such a good husband. So, but like Vivian, I had to go through that whole testing, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as I met Steve and Rob, it was like all so fast. It all just like went boing. And it was great.
Dan, was this offered to you out of the box, or?
Actually, I was offered the part of Hank. Yeah, Vince saw me in a play on Broadway, and he was very, very complimentary. And I said, I read it, and I said, I'm still the dad on the Wonder Years to most of Mid-America, and those lines aren't funny coming from me. And, Vince, yeah, I know. And Vince respected that, and then he asked me to come in and meet Steve, and I met Steve, and we talked. I said the same thing to you.
Yeah.
And then Vince called a couple of days later and said, even though you're Italian, how would you like to play Sullivan? And my agent said yes without even calling me. And I've been stuck with these guys ever since. Yeah, I got to tell you, this is the most fun. I always said, forget the show. I wish you guys could see rehearsals. Because with these 4 comics, you could have the worst day of your life. Your dog could die, and you walk into rehearsal crying, and you're going to get 20 minutes of dead dog jokes until you're laughing. These guys are hysterical.
Well, there are 3 Koreans on the show, so it's.
I have a
Now you got it?
too soon.
Don't shake your head, miss. Come on. Turn my mic off.
Christine.
Hi. Yeah, I got hired kind of at the last minute, which was cool. It was kind of at the 11th hour.
Okay.
And it was funny because I was up for another show called Bunheads.
Oh, sure.
And they were kind of jerking me around, and saying, well, we're going to wait for Sutton Foster because you got to come back and you've got to audition with Sutton Foster and be put on camera, and the people aren't available in California. It's a time change. There's just all this kind of stuff. They're going on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So like at the last minute, my agent is just about to say okay to a test deal, not a guarantee for the part, but a test deal for Bunheads. And in his inimitable way, he just like at 5:20 in the afternoon, he sends me the script. He goes, I don't know if you're gonna like it or not. It's a little bit racy, but but just take a read and get back to me right away. So I read it and I just called back and I said, this is hilarious. I said, I want to do it. So then all of a sudden, Bunheads wanted me, you know? It's so
That
funny
show
how
is
that
canceled
worked, you
now.
know?
Yeah.
Was it canceled?
Yes, it was canceled.
Oh my God, lucky
Yeah.
me. Yeah, so that's what happened. And I just, I thought of myself being at 4:30 in the morning in some trailer in East Jesus, out in the valley, with a bunch of 13-year-olds at 4:30 in the morning. I was like, you know what? And the casting director was calling me, trying to convince me to, to do Bunheads, because, like I said, since I got this other offer, all of a sudden they wanted me. And I said, well, how quickly they change, But I just said, you know what? Really, in an ideal world, this is an ideal world, to have like a 4-camera sitcom. It's really the most unbelievable schedule for an actor, as opposed to doing the single camera when you get up at 4:30 and by the end of the week, you start shooting at 7 p.m. and you go home at 6 o'clock the next morning on Saturday, back on Monday at 4:30 in the morning. So and then getting here totally exceeded every single one of my expectations. So that's what was so awesome about it. Making that decision to do Sullivan and Son, and then to get here, and it was like the universe rewarded me in more ways than I could ever imagine. I love you guys. I love you too.
All right, Owen, try to follow that.
How am I going to follow that? So I was also up for Bunheads, and they wanted me pretty damn bad. I've known Steve for a really, really long time, and he was one of the first comics I saw at a club. This is maybe 12 years ago in New York City, and I was just starting to get into stand-up, and I thought he was the best comic I'd ever seen, and that's no bullshit. He was always one of my favorite comics, and when I came to LA, we started shooting sketches together, like 2005. We shot a couple sketches together, and then we became friends, and he asked me to open for him. And I opened for him, and we shot some music video on Segways, where I was wearing a Sparks jersey.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was writing this sitcom a few years later, and he was writing me into it, but not me, just the archetype of a dumb white person, and so it was Owen. He wrote Owen in, and that was kind of like a placeholder. In a perfect world, I'd play it, but who knows? And so I ended up having to audition to play myself, which was interesting. They're like, "Who's next up for Owen is Owen." I'm like, "It's not a fucking coincidence." No, I'm just kidding. Am I allowed to swear? No, yeah, I am, right? Sorry about that. Is this like radio? I don't know. All right,
That ship has sailed.
That ship has
Go on.
sailed. All right, so anyway, long story short, I got the role of myself, and that's it. I'm still America's dumb white man.
Okay. Valerie?
The audition process for me was kind of one of those LA days where you get a call the night before that you have 3 auditions the next day. And I remember I read the pilot for this, and I just thought, how awesome would it be to play a really strong, young, independent woman who, in the pilot, takes a shot, and it's all very different than the roles that I used to play. I think I've played like every dumb blonde on every sitcom, and I wanted it so bad, and I knew a bar like this growing up in my hometown. And I went into the audition. I remember I changed in my car because it was one of those things, you're running around town and I see a lot of nodding heads. It's like you keep your wardrobe in the back of the car. It's like you have a commercial audition for Wendy's and then a pilot and then after that a small film. It's an independent, but it's low budget and you should really look at it. So, you have like a whole wardrobe back there, but I changed in the parking garage and when I met Steve, he actually stood up and shook my hand at the audition, which was so rare, so different. And I remember thinking, I looked over and I saw Peter Billingsley and I was like, oh my God, Christmas Story. And then I thought, don't think that, Valerie, you're never gonna get through the material. But everybody was amazing. And I went to the test and that's where I met Vivian and Jodi. We all tested and paced the waiting rooms together. And
kept our fingers crossed and was elated when we got to actually film it and shoot it, and the fact that it made it to air. And it's just, I don't know, it's awesome. So
That's great.
it was fun.
Okay, Roy?
Steve did not shake my hand.
I had just seen Philadelphia. So, oh, come on. What is it? Is it breakfast? What is,
Too soon.
I mean, I knew Steve from around some of the stand-up circuits or whatever, and we had a mutual respect for one another. I call it performance respect. I mean, we weren't friends per se, like we weren't drinking buddies, but there was no animosity. So, in the comedy world, that's saying a lot because comics don't like each other traditionally. So he was always cool with me, and I saw him one day, just at a random gig around town. He goes, "Yeah, I'm writing a show, and you're the kind of guy I think I want in the show." And I'm just like, "Whatever, dude, you're drunk." And I shrug it off because everybody's got a script and they're doing something. And sure enough, I get an email, and it's like, here's the audition, here's the address, blah, 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 blah.
To your AOL account?
Yes.
No joke.
Keep it real. I have an AOL account.
He just ditched his Netscape.
Yeah,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
He's right. Every day on set, this is what we do. So I went into the audition, and it was Steve, it was Rob. It was as intimidating as any other audition I've done. I've been out in LA since '07. I've probably made it to producers twice. So so in my head, I'm conditioned. I don't know how the rest of the panel is conditioned, but I'm very conditioned to when I leave the room, that's it, it's done. It happened, it's over with. I didn't get it. Not from a pessimistic way, but I left it all in the room. I'm done.
but we saw that Morgan Freeman Shawshank Redemption vibe in him, and I said, not this time, and I stamped it. Approved. Approved. You're free.
But yeah, I went in 2 or 3 times for auditions. And it was intimidating for me because I don't know who else was in the waiting room for you guys, but it was like black people that were way more famous than me with way deeper resumes, and they're doing intimidating stuff in the waiting room. Like, they're taking calls and they go, "Okay, so that shoots on the 3rd? Okay, well, yeah, I'm free on the 3rd. Okay, yeah, well, no, I'm in this audition now. But yeah, I already talked to him, so yeah, I already, and I'm like, there's no way. I'm not gonna get this. And I did, and so it's been one of those.
Nice.
Roy worked to you, baby.
Good hands. Ahmed, bring us home.
Great, the Arab guy goes last. I'm kidding. Can you guys hear me on this? Can you hear me? Much like Vivian and I guess Jodi, I always go out for the terrorist or cab driver. I've never played a part in a film or television show where I was just a normal guy, like the friend or the doctor or whatever. So this is like a breath of fresh air for me. And much like Steve, we were on the road a lot. We would text each other depressing text messages like, "Oh, I'm stuck in this airport. Oh, I'm stuck in this airport. I have a layover and my flight's delayed and this sucks."
You were stuck in the airport for different reasons, though.
Well,
to be fair.
and the beat goes on. And the beat goes on. When we travel as a team, they leave me behind. They're like, "We'll see you in the city someday," or whatever. Find your way there. But one day, we were kind of battling depression. He sent me a text message and he said, "We're not gonna have to do this one day. I'm gonna write a show for us." And literally a year later, he wrote this show. The sad part is we're still doing it. We're traveling through airports and getting stuck in places. But Steve Byrne in our comedy community amongst our peers is considered the nicest, most generous comic out there, probably nationwide. He's just always looking out for other people, thinking about other people, and picking up tabs, and just really considerate. And so it's a dream come true to work on a show with one of your best friends. And I've known Vince Vaughn and Peter Billingsley for several years. So to have that all kind of tie together, and then be amongst award-winning actors and veterans, it's really just a dream come true. So
Yeah, Steve's the type of guy, just real quick, where if you eat dinner with him, he won't let you pay, so you have to give the card to the waiter before the apps.
I call in the restaurant before we
No
go.
joke. I'm not joking. It has to be, and the waiters are always like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, just trust me. We want sodas, but as it goes on, I have to pay for it because he won't let you pay. He's that generous. It's insane."
Now Dan's going to ask me what I'm doing for dinner tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
Steve, was it a conscious decision to make the cast multi-culty, to make the show multi-culty?
No, I think that when you do that, it's forced and it feels forced. Like, Roy is somebody, I'll just go right to the black guy. Roy is, I was watching Rush Hour when I was writing it. No. Roy is just a guy I always loved listening to his voice. He's got a great voice. He's got a great comedic voice, and he says anything. He makes it funny. So I just thought, that's a guy I'd like to sit for a half hour with when I tune on the TV. Ahmed, I love his act. Owen, I love his act. And these are just guys that I'm friends with, that I hang out with on Friday or Saturday nights after sets. We'll go get a drink, and these are the guys I hang with. And Roy's somebody I've always wanted to hang with, but never had the opportunity because he is in Alabama driving around in a Hyundai with a license plate that says no sleep.
It was a Ford Focus.
Yeah, Ford Focus, there we go, sorry.
LS.
It's still shitty. So it's still a shitty car.
Had a spoiler, though. Had a spoiler.
But it is also multi-generational too, which is something that, was not exactly forced, but it was just something I thought, that's what you see in a neighborhood bar. You see all different ages. It's not a club, there's no velvet ropes, and I don't like velvet ropes. I like to just walk in, have a drink, and have conversation. And I really think we hit the lottery with these guys.
And Dan, you started the program by saying you can't help but laugh when you're in a rehearsal with these guys. For the stand-ups, this is very different from life on the road. And how have you adapted to doing a scripted show?
Well, Dan always asks me acting advice. Like, he pulls me aside and he says, "Teach me how to listen," shit like that. He does it.
Still trying to learn.
If you're given lessons on teach you how to listen, can you talk to my wife?
And he's out. That's his exit. That's his
I
exit
think
joke.
for me as a stand-up, the most difficult transition was sticking to the script. Like, you can't bail on the dialogue. The dialogue is the dialogue. And then you have loyalty to your scene partner to figure out a way to make that come to life. Whereas on stage, if it's not working, well, I can do this, or I can try. Like, you can call audibles, but
Right.
you can't do that.
Do you guys ever do you ever improv during rehearsals? During the production week? No?
That's one of the best things about having Steve not only be one of the producers, but the leader of the show. Because when we're in rehearsal, if somebody comes up with a good one-liner, Steve jots it down right away. He's on that phone, and the next day you may see it in the script. So it's great having that conduit from the rehearsals.
Yeah, when they eat lunch,
we feel
that's
free
when I
to
run.
throw a line.
I run to the writer's room when you guys eat lunch, and I give Rob the notes, and hopefully, whatever he likes. But then when we also film, we film in front of a live studio audience. So the first one is a run-through, straight through, one take. The second one is 2 or 3 takes each scene. But if somebody has an idea, we always give it a whirl and just see if it works. And a lot of the improv happens then on the second taping.
Because if this panel is any indication, the rehearsals must be hilarious. But I can't imagine.
Every line is a setup. Doesn't matter what you say, 4 guys jump in.
Now, I know you guys are also doing a Sullivan and Son comedy tour. So does this mean you're working, you're shooting, and you're flying around to do the stand-up tour gigs?
Yeah, originally it was supposed to be we finished filming and then hit the road, but I had an incident occur where my jaw was broken for 6 weeks. So that pushed everything back. So we're literally filming the last 6 episodes now, and on the weekends we hit the road and fly out to wherever it is we want to go. And so we're keeping that alive.
Because
And that was Steve's, like last year we were against the Olympics, and Steve's one of the hardest working guy I know. He literally is just like, all right, let's tour the country, let's meet everyone who watches the show, shake all their hands. Like we're literally going from, I'd say 25 cities, and just make sure we met people and did live shows for everyone and just did a lot of grassroots advertising, because we're against Michael Phelps winning his 7th gold medal. I mean, that's not Gossip Girl. That's like legitimate, 40 million people were watching. Yeah. And tonight we're against Game 7, so it's the same thing. We're always having to struggle, but it pays off in the end. We open it over 2 million viewers, and a lot of it has to do with Steve's hard work and our ability to follow Steve.
And what's the reaction been from the fans on the road?
Great.
It's good. They're drunk, some of them, but it's a comedy show. They're usually supposed to be drunk at a comedy show.
It's like we're in Middle America, so I feel like they appreciate it a little bit more, and they appreciate the interaction, and it's just more interactive. People that are really paying attention, and it's really rewarding because people come out of the shows quoting lines from the show, and they've got their T-shirts on or whatever. It's really a grassroots campaign.
Well, wait, actually, the guys came to, I grew up in Connecticut, and I asked Steve, I said, hey, my dad is a card dealer at Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut. It would be awesome if you guys played there. So the guys all came, and they played, and in the audience, Steve will pick people out of the audience in his act. And if you haven't seen him do stand-up, all of these guys, it's truly incredible. I've seen it 9 times, and every time my face hurts from laughing. But Steve picked this guy out of the audience, this guy named Kong, and Kong, and he was just sort of like Kong was there by himself having a Cosmo. It was really cute, and he was the nicest guy, and so we hung out with him afterward. He came with us around at Foxwoods. We all got food, and Kong got a little wild and drunk, and Steve was like, hey man, here's my number. If you ever come to LA, call me. Now, how many people have said that and actually followed through?
Kong came.
Kong came. And in the
Kong came.
episode you just saw, right? It was
Yeah,
the
he was
Ken
one of the Asian
He was
extras.
one of the Asian doctors. So not only did he come out to see the show, Steve was like, oh, you're not going to see it. You're going to be in it.
Yeah.
Kong is a scientist, super quiet. So, yeah, and he the whole time, he was like, I can't believe this is happening. I work in a lab.
Yeah. He built
But I mean,
submarines.
that's who you're talking about, That's the kind of person,
And
when
Steve
you
will do a 3,000 seater.
It's unbelievable.
And then an hour later be like, dude, I think we can grab a pizzeria. There's 9 people we can perform for. There's just no. He's like, we're free from 1 a.m. to 2:30. I think we can get an Arby's. And to eat, no, we can hand out flyers. Right after doing like Madison Square, it's just crazy. It's all the same to him. It's just.
The tours. When you go on a tour around Warner Brothers, if Steve sees a tour, he brings him on the set.
Yeah.
Constantly, we're sitting there with food coming out of our mouths, and it's like, oh, hello.
And the director is like, why are these people? Who are they? What is that? Yeah, Game of Thrones won't do that. We do. Sullivan and Son. Suck that, HBO.
For the record, we like HBO and Game of Thrones.
Oh, absolutely. It's a wonderful show.
And we also like Gossip Girl. I just listed the first thing I could
And
think
Scandal.
of. Yeah,
And
we-
Bunheads.
We like everything.
Butthead.
Buttheads is our favorite show. I just don't like the way Bunheads treated my mom. They're pieces of shit. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm joking. I don't even know what Bunheads means. It's just a word. I've never even heard of anything.
It's a dancer, Owen.
It's a dancer?
It's about ballerinas.
Oh, it's about
Teenage
ballerinas.
Yeah.
Well, I still don't like the way
Very
they treated my mother.
I agree. I don't like the way they treated her either.
You don't make her wait. You don't make her wait for the West Coast and put her on tape.
Word.
2 Tony Awards.
Hello.
She'll dance around those ballerinas.
Broadway star. Hello. Woohoo!
That's right.
So before we go to some audience questions, what's been the biggest difference from the first season to the second season?
I got a one-liner
Steve.
now.
I have a husband. Yeah, I found out I have a husband.
I think the writing has gotten deeper for each character, and now I think Robert even said after we did the pilot, he was like, "Oh, now what?" Right? And I think each character you're just learning more, and we're more comfortable in our characters, and now we can actually hear you guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Because when we first got on the set, the comedians here, they all were in their mics. So Dan and I and Christine, we'd be like, what did they say? And doing a sitcom is like doing a play. Essentially, you're doing it in front of a studio audience. So you guys have your energy so much better this year, and we can hear you. And It's so great. But it's like everyone's developing, including the writer.
And I try to pass
Well, we
all
can
that
afford
knowledge on to-
cocaine, that's why
Oh.
now. So, we're very energetic. Sorry, bud.
I was literally just going to do another joke about I passed that knowledge on to Dan as an actor. I'm
Learning, you
It's
know.
just such a like, he's such a great.
Always on 'em, you know.
One thing I noticed is on tour this year has been really cool because there's fans there. They're like, oh, I love this show. Last year we were convincing everyone to watch the show. You know, they're like, what's Sullivan Son? We're like, you gotta watch it. I'm gonna write it on your face, you know? And this year they come up to us and they're like, we really like your show. And I don't know what to do at first. I'm just like, but you have to watch it. They're like, we do. I'm like, all right, great.
We didn't plan out the conversation beyond that.
You know, I mean, comics are so used to like pushing that when they're coming back, we're just like, hey, that's great.
Yeah, I think the first season you're experimenting. You're seeing what happens when she talks to him, when he talks to her, and you're finding the relationships. And I think towards the end of the first season, we found our strengths and said, let's run with it. I mean, we never knew that this relationship would occur between a mother and son being each other's wingmen. And, you know, with Christine Ebersole, two-time Tony Award-winning Broadway actress, an incredible voice, and then Owen is a classically trained pianist. He's been playing since he was 2. And we thought, well, let's do a show where where we utilize their skills and see what happens. And then that spirals into, well, let's have them sing the most sexually inappropriate songs that a mother and son should ever sing together, and then a relationship is born.
Got it.
So that, yeah, and now we're going to play with that a lot this in an episode coming up, and I'm excited to see it. But that's one of my favorite episodes, seeing them sing sexual healing together. It's disgusting.
That was great.
Yeah.
It's the sickest episode. That's why it's his favorite.
And Dan, I have to ask, because you were in one of the most famous single-camera comedies, The Wonder Years, and now you're doing multi-camera comedy. And do you
There's
enjoy
no
it?
bar I won't crawl under.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that was the quote of the evening.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions from the audience, and then we'll open it up. First, let's see, a question from Joshua. So you can, Joshua, do you want to raise your hand?
Our Josh.
There it is.
That's our
Hey,
job.
that's our Josh.
That's Father Perry.
You can just ask us on your own time.
When you see the perverted priest on our show, that's him.
Yeah, we got to give a shout out to Father Perry.
He has the most laughs for the least amount of lines.
Oh my gosh, but the
He
reaction.
doesn't, he's never had a line, but he's had applause breaks.
Soon.
Yeah, you'll get a line, buddy.
Soon. Father Perry.
The question was, how is it working in front of a live studio audience, and how does it affect your acting to be in front of a live audience as opposed to single cam shows or projects? So go ahead.
Do you want to take this, Christine? I mean, you got probably the...
Well, I thought that would be for Dan, but
Dan or Christine, yeah.
yeah,
or
well,
Jodi.
it is a different kind of energy when you're working in front of a live audience. It's really the closest thing to doing a play. So we love that because the stage is the actor's medium. So, I really appreciate that. It's very different when you're in front of the camera because the laughs are sort of more internalized. If you're doing a comedy that's single camera, it's a different thing. You don't have the added character, which is the audience, that's kind of shooting the barometer at you, letting you know like what works and what doesn't work. So I really prefer this medium. It's, fast and furious, and it's very satisfying.
And I think also there's a timing factor when you're connected or the audience is connected to you, so that all of a sudden they're reacting, and then you can actually roll that into the next laugh, in terms of the timing of it. So it really is like doing theater, and that's what's so much fun.
Yeah, coming from the other side, like when I've done movies a few times, I never felt as comfortable with it as I do with multicam, because I'd be like trying to get a laugh from like the gaffers and stuff. And I'm like, why isn't the sound guy laughing? Is this joke shitty? Like, I would just see it as like a real thing, and I remember people would be like, no, they don't laugh, they just hold the boom. I'm like, nah, if it's funny, they'll fucking laugh.
I think also, I don't know if you guys know, but we do 2 shows actually when we shoot. So we do a 3 o'clock show and a 6 o'clock show, and the jokes that don't work from the 3 o'clock show are cut, which is interesting. So if it doesn't work in the audience, they'll come back with literally like hot off the presses. The script is hot in your hand, and you're going out to take the opening bow, but you've got a lot of line change. Hopefully not a lot, but sometimes things work and they don't, and you never know why.
I also think that there's something to be said for, being a comedian. It seems like what's popular now for a lot of comedians. Look, there's a gap between comedy right now. There's an alternative scene that's very popular right now, and there's a mainstream scene which is representative of guys like myself and Roy and Owen, guys that work the road.
You do it the old school
Yeah,
way.
I think if you work the alt scene, you're going to have rent. If you can go mainstream and work the clubs and get the rest of the country, you have an opportunity to get a mortgage and be a provider for yourself. And I think that when you do that alt scene, you can play the rock clubs or you can play to America. And that was always my thing. I thought, I don't want to go the alt scene where you have a single camera show that's very clever, but nobody laughs out loud. And nobody laughs out loud at
You mean
those
like
shows that
Modern
used to be.
Family, something like that?
Yeah,
right?
where you just watch and you go, oh, that's smart, but you don't laugh. You think, oh, that's funny, but you don't laugh. But at our show, you laugh because it's reminiscent of old school comedies. I think it's the way it should be. In front of an audience, you get that instant reaction. There's no laugh track. If we don't get the laugh, we keep working, and the writers keep writing until we get a laugh. And that's the thing I'm most proud of about our show, and the live audience aspect.
That's the way you do a sitcom.
Yeah,
So I get
think
it.
so, yeah.
What lit this fire under you?
Well, I get a little upset because I think that there is an elitist attitude, I feel, on the coasts, on New York and Los Angeles, where there's a little, snobbery. Towards the shows that get viewership, and we get viewership, and I know comedians that have shows that are critically acclaimed, but nobody watches them. So I'm like, well, what's the...
And they're the cockiest people in the room, too, and they always make bad.
All right, we want names.
No, but there's been times.
No
No
names.
names. There's a lot of the alt guys we're good friends with. I'm not saying the whole scene, but there's been a couple. They're almost like nerd bullies. Where you're like, it's almost like reversing, where you're like, you're going to the gym. Where it's like now they're bullying the other side, and Byrne is like obsessed with Superman and like Batman. I mean, he has like dolls in his room.
That's...
I'm a classical piano player.
Just start the car.
Yeah, but I play classical piano. My parents are both college professors. We're like nerdy dudes, and it's like we want to be part of the crew, and they're like,
I don't want
"No."
to be part of the crew.
I always like to be accepted by crews, but they're just not very accepting people. And I think what happened is they'll write shows based on what makes entertainers laugh. Like people are like, shit's killing at Silver Lake. It's like, take it to Chattanooga, see if they laugh.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do for a living. We just did Cincinnati. I want to see if that shit makes people laugh in a city where people work in a place that they hate.
But there's something to be said for that, because what I've noticed is with that alternative comedy and the alternative programming is that it only works if you have home field advantage.
Yeah.
Okay? Guys like Owen, myself, Roy, I feel our show, you can drop it in the middle anywhere and we'll get the laughs no matter where we are. Because we're professionals. We've done it for so long. I can make a crowd laugh in Chattanooga, as Cleveland, as San Francisco, as New York City, but I don't think that those guys can if they're put in a mainstream club in Iowa or wherever it might be. And I think that's what the country is. The country is more representative of those other 48 states than this elitist attitude. And I don't think that a blue-collar mentality and Midwestern values should be shunned upon. It's my bread and butter. It's where I'm from. I'm proud of it.
Same here,
So-
yeah. It's imagine an alt mechanic. Where it's like, I'm just going to look at my notepad. I'm going to try fixing this shit different today. It's like, no, fix my fucking engine.
Hipster mechanic.
Yeah, hipster
Yeah.
There you
mechanics.
go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's let the audience get in on this, because there's just gold up here. Yes, sir, in the plaid shirt.
Hi, Steve. What time is it that
Thank you.
ambush
Next-
the studio audience? Because I can really use the work.
What's that?
What time is it that you ambush the studio tour? Because I can use the work.
Well, that all depends whenever we get a breather, that's when we go out and we throw a football and just get some sun because you're in this cocoon. But
We oil up and throw out the football.
if you just happen to be
Lunch is
gallivanting
at
through
1
Warner Bros.
o'clock.
Yeah, 1 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, we throw on Top Gun, take the shirts off, play some volleyball. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Oil up.
Next question. No one's got a question?
Nice talking to you.
Yes, sir, right here.
My wife and I watched the show from day one. We never missed an episode, and we love it. And I work at Warner Brothers, by the way. I'm
Oh, thank you.
security officer at Warner Brothers.
Thank you.
I metal detect your audience from time to time as they come in. And I work at the main gate.
Thank
you. My question really is, who came up with the line, "You're a fat"? Because we love that, we use it all the time.
You're
but-
fat?
Yeah, a fat. I mean, you know how you say, "You're a fat."
You're a fat, yeah. It's actually courtesy of Steve's mom.
I got married, and the day of my wedding, my mom goes, "Oh, you look fat." I was like, "Who says that to her? Why would you?" And then Jodi took it and, of course, said it just like my mom would say it and killed. My mom was actually at the pilot taping, and she was like, I'm like, why would you give to an insult?
That is his mom, by the way. Her name is Okcha, and that's her.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Steve, you need to make more money.
The nice lady back here.
When you were conceiving of the show, did you immediately have this number of characters, or did you start writing and then say, oh, I've got to add this, or I've got to add that?
I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest with you. So I just thought, oh, that'd be fun if you have a little cougar. It'd be funny if you have an old vet that's kind of racist. And then when I started to think about it, it's really different voices of my stand-up. Because Hank, being the racist, is the racial aspect of my stand-up. Carol, the sexed-up cougar, is kind of the sexual part of my stand-up. Then my familial aspect that I wanted to have in, and I talk about my family as stand-up as well. And then the guys, I thought would be fun to have different voices in stand-up as well. So I think it was stand-up-centric, selfishly, when I was writing it.
There's another question right back there.
Did you get any pushback?
Yes.
Business has a memory that is really bad. From the Margaret Cho's, she was the first Asian that was in crime time, things like that. They seem to be saying, oh, we're not going to do that again. Oh, that failed miserably.
Right.
Stuck for a long time. Did you feel any of that, or has enough time passed where people just, hopefully it's just go on?
Well, here's the great news, is that nobody paid attention to us at the beginning. I really feel it's been an uphill climb. Really, I feel like the only folks that really ever cared or pushed or had our backs was TBS. I mean, from day one. And they're the ones that obviously gave us the opportunity, put us on the map, advertised us, gave us a second season, and I think we're constantly just proving ourselves to America. But I, as a Korean American, as an American, I remember Margaret Cho's show coming out and just feeling a sense of pride in that coming out, and then to know that one of those cast members, those trailblazers of that show, is now my mom. I'm just blown away by it. So it's been amazing.
Can I address the thing about Margaret, being it really wasn't the first, because Mr. T and Tina was the first Asian American sitcom with Pat Morita and Pat Suzuki. However, we had, there was so much flack that Margaret had from the network, and, it had to be this, it had to be that. She really suffered, I think. And I don't feel it's that way with our show, because we're mixed race. It's not just, on the shoulders of the Asian community.
Right. I agree with that because part of the basis of my stand-up is always that I'm an American. I consider myself American, and to say I'm just Korean or say I'm just Irish, I'd be lying to myself. And I never wanted to pander to just one race and play San Francisco the rest of my life, So I always wanted to be, I think with my show and my stand-up, I wanted to be inclusive and not exclusive. So.
Well, I think what's great about TBS is also that it is not sold as an Asian sitcom. It's a sitcom.
Yeah.
And there's something for everybody.
Exactly.
Which is exactly what it is.
Yeah, because we're all mixed. Yeah, it's like if I did a sitcom, it wouldn't be a Czech sitcom. No one looks at a white person and they're like, what kind of white are you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm Czech, German, and Irish. No one's going to sell
But now we're
that.
going to start thanks to you, Owen.
Great. As much hate as I can make. I'm into it.
But just one thing also, Margaret came to a taping of our show,
Yeah.
and she really felt that it was All-American Girl grown up. And partly it was because we were an 8 o'clock show, and we were really on a network. Everything was constrained.
ABC, right.
And we're a 10 o'clock show, which changes.
On cable, we get to get away with much more.
We can say a lot of other things. So it is all grown up, and it's great.
And I just wanted to, there was one other question that was submitted from a mother of Asian actors. And the question was, how many of the writers on the show are Asian? And did you ever disagree with the Asian depictions written into the show? And if so, how did you deal with that?
Well, we do have an Asian writer on the show, Brenda. She's incredible. And there hasn't been anything on the show that I've found offensive, but I have a high barometer of tolerance.
We've noticed.
Towards being offensive. Yeah, I think you probably saw an example of that today. But there hasn't been anything. I think, look, I think most people shoot from the hip. We say what most people are thinking. And I think you buy it all back at the end of the day because all these characters on the show care about each other. Even Hank, no matter what he says, he cares about the guys. He cares about Jodi. He cares about everybody. And that's always been the backbone of the show is that you want to be with friends, you want to be with family, you love each other. This is a group of people that happen to be going through life together and they're always there for each other. We're just not in a water fountain splashing each other to a fun song. That's all.
Well, this has been great. Thanks to everybody. What an incredible panel.
Do we have time for these last two? There's
Oh,
one
oh,
here
there
and one
two?
in the back. there.
Okay, let's do it. Right here, and then we'll go right to you. Hang on.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hi. I've been to a number of these Q&As, both with network sitcoms and with cable sitcoms, and they talk about the parameters of censorship and restrictions and so forth. What if any restrictions have you had from either networks or sponsors or anything like that?
Do you guys deal with broadcast standards of some sort from TBS?
Yeah. I mean,
I would expect.
we walk the line. We've had to pull back a few times, but we, that's the fun in it is seeing where the line is. But we don't write jokes for shock value. We say we don't just write it for the joke. It's got to be conducive to the story, and if it happens to come into play, then great. But we don't try to be shocking or anything. It just sometimes it is what it is.
I've been pushing for a full frontal, Game of Thrones style. I want to be Game of Thrones. I want to show the penis. And they're telling me I can't, so I guess there is some censorship.
Enough about your penis. Okay, so the one note that I got from the studio at one taping, Hank was doing, it was like a black joke about, something about black people can't swim or whatever. And
fact, by the way.
Not to all of us. So, and my relationship with Hank, I always feel like it's kind of like, oh, there he goes again. He's just Hank being Hank. And the note I got was to smile more. And I understood that because it's like, I'm feeling it, but I wasn't completely showing it. So I got that acting note. It was either from the studio or Vince Vaughn, but they didn't take the joke away. They didn't take the essence of the character away. They didn't ruin the relationship. They were just like, all right, let's just make sure that this comes through properly on camera. And that was probably the most that I've ever seen happen with anything that was edgy.
That makes sense. And for this lovely patient lady.
Hi. Yes, I had a question about the editing process, and you said that you do two shows, right?
Yes.
And you said if one maybe online doesn't work, you'll try a different one in the second show. So how does that work as far as the editing process when it's because these are live shows you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Audience.
Yeah.
So if it's something that you didn't like or didn't work in the first shoot, and then at the end of time you do another shoot and you change it, is the editing happening right there at that moment, or does the editing take place the next day after?
Oh, the writing definitely takes place between the two shows. The writers will go and say, scratch that joke, come up with a new one, scratch that joke, shorten this, tighten this. And so for us, it's kind of an uptown problem, but we're working on a show, but then all of a sudden you've got to rememorize certain things, and sometimes there's a lot of pages, and sometimes there's less, but it is edited on the spot, yeah, in terms of the script, yes.
Are you talking about physical editing, like to tape?
Script and to tape.
Oh, okay.
So once you edit the script, then you go into are you part of the editing process?
I sit in sometimes, yeah.
And so at that point, so that's what I'm trying to find out, is the actual editing process, the cutting and pasting, is that happening immediately?
It's not happening immediately, but Steve Prime, our editor, is there, and he will literally tell the director, I need this shot, can you get his reaction, can you get that reaction? So, he's one of the few editors that does that, and he'll stick around, and thank God for it.
So if a line doesn't work the first time around, then if you change it, I'm trying to find out if that alters the way the editing is done. Like say if you give
No, it doesn't affect it because you have so much in the editing machine. If you and I are talking and I give you a straight line and you deliver the punch line and they don't like it, the next time they can still use my first take to deliver the straight line. They could do your 8th take and cut into the punch. So I know what you're saying. It's not done that way. They just fill the editing machine with every possible shot and every possible joke, and then you hope the funniest one makes it. And usually the funniest one makes it. And sometimes they literally in the second, not so much the first shoot because we try to go right through. It's more like a dress rehearsal, although they do have the option to use that. But in the second show, somebody will walk in and deliver a funny line, and Rob, who's been around for a long time writing Cheers, he'll go, I don't care if they laugh, we can come up with something better. And everybody, especially these 4, they all throw in a line, and then they'll have the guy walk in 4 times and deliver, and then all of a sudden you hit one that the audience just goes out, and you say, well, that's the one they're going to keep.
Wow.
But they'll still have all 4 of those punchlines.
Well, sorry, do you want to, one more? Okay. One more, bonus question.
Nobody wants to leave. They're having
Bonus
too much fun.
question.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for coming. I love the show, and I think it's such a great combination. Great job.
Thank you.
And for the stand-up comedians, I want to know if there's something that you do differently to prepare for a TV audience, a live TV audience, than your audience when you do stand-up.
You don't drink. That's it. Yeah,
The difference in live audience preparation for acting versus performance. I guess for me, it's just memorizing the lines. Yeah, for me, I lines and blocking. Like for me, it's more blocking than lines.
Oh, for you, acting is lines and blocking?
No, I'm saying the 2 things that I prioritize game day preparation. Yeah, for me, it's, oh, wait, where
For
do
other
I
actors,
stand?
it's not about lines or blocking.
So what's it about for you?
That's the joke. I was just kidding.
I'm in.
I just think it's a different preparation. You know, being a comedian is an independent individual sport, and being on a sitcom, you're on a team, so you have to pass the ball and pay attention and listen and be a lot more prepared, I think, because there's other people involved. It's not just you. If you screw up as a comic, that's all on you. But if you screw up on a sitcom, you're affecting other people. So, you know, it's just about, you know, being a good teammate.
Owen, anything to add?
Oh, like a smart-ass remark to that? No, I'm Joe.
No, let's talk about your big dick.
So anyway, I got a hell of a penis in these corduroys.
Yeah.
Oh, for God's sake.
I'm joking. No, I'm not joking. It's sweet.
Steve, want
Yes.
a closing note?
Closing note. You know, I love these guys, and it's been a real. This has been fun. I don't think we ever did anything like this, and I just want to thank you so much for having us, and I thank you guys for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you all.
Come on down. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
We're all on Facebook or
here we go.
Wherever you go.
Jesus.
I'm just being
Even
networking.
including
I'm
Father
trying to be
Perry.
a friend.
And our show is on tonight at 10 o'clock.
That, and by the
Yeah.
way, before they did the panel, they were in the other room live tweeting for the East Coast fans. That's how devoted they are.
We're going to get you a Twitter, Dan.
I'm going to make
sooner
a
or
ghost
later.
Twitter account for him.
Come on, get on
Thanks for
Vine.
coming, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank you,
night.
guys.